With the re-election of Donald Trump as the 47th president of the United States, many are wondering, how will this impact Canada? Hello, I'm Adrienne Batra. With me are Brian Lilley and Warren Kinsella. Let's go back to 2016, Brian, when then President Donald Trump, when he was 45th president, one of the most significant things that happened was the renegotiation of NAFTA. It has now morphed into what is dubbed the USMCA. And in the language in the USMCA is that the United States can come back and reopen that contract for future negotiations. Well, here we are 6 years later, and President Trump-elect has said he will reopen that, but also he wants to get pipelines built in North America. So let's start with the question on most people's minds. Is this going to be an adverse effect on Canada, not only economically, but with our relationship with the United States?
It depends on how the Trudeau government acts this time. That will determine which side of the tariff wall we're on, and we want to be on the inside. Donald Trump uses tariffs as a tool to get what he wants. It's not his grand economic plan, but he realizes that it can work. Everyone remembers the steel and aluminum tariffs that he imposed on Canada, called it a national security threat. And we had so many people up here saying, I don't know why he's calling it a national security threat. Why is that happening? And we're not. They told us why. It's because we were allowing Chinese steel and aluminum to come to Canada. We'd polish it once and ship it down as a Canadian product. And they told us to stop that for an entire year and warned us, if you don't, you will face tariffs. And the Trudeau government refused to act, and they didn't even respond to the Americans until the day after the tariffs were put in place. If we're dumb like that again, if we worry more about our relationship with Beijing than with Washington, we'll be on the wrong side. If we're smart, then we become what Ontario Premier Doug Ford is calling Team North America, like buy North American. We want to be, part of the same supply chains. The push to reshore supply chains after the pandemic is still a very real thing. We need to show them how and why. That's going to take a Team Canada effort. Trudeau led a successful one. He made mistakes, as I said, with things like the tariffs, but he was successful for the most part in escaping what Trump was doing to other parts of the world to get what he wants. So he's got to go back to that Team Canada approach, and they need to stop campaigning against Donald Trump here at home. Otherwise, he's going to notice and he's going to get annoyed.
Well, Warren, I think that was actually one of the points that you made just within hours after Donald Trump's reelection, was that for the Liberals, their best asset now is a Donald Trump presidency, because it could help shore up their very sagging support all across the country, because they're going to be able to say, make Donald Trump the boogeyman, and that's what Pierre Poilievre's going to do. How do you see it?
This is what I picture. So Justin's going to come out, and he's going to do his sincere kind of emotive voice thing. He's going to say, look, I know not everybody loves me. That's what happens, when you're in government for a long time. I know they're not in love with me. But do you really want a hard right president in the Oval Office and a hard right prime minister in the prime minister's office? Do you really want that? Or do you need a progressive voice to offset that? The NDP is gone. The Liberal Party, we are the main progressive voice in Canada. That's true as well. You need an offset. We need an offset for what is coming under the Trump administration. And, we're that guy. And I think he can do that, Adrienne, whether he's still the leader or he's setting the table to leave and he hands over, the keys to some new Liberal leader, and they'll make the same argument. And it's an argument, that has worked in successive Canadian elections, because we do, as his dad said, we're the mouse who lives beside the elephant. And, the tariffs thing, again, I find myself disagreeing with Brian. What do tariffs mean? Tariffs means imposing a financial penalty on a good that you are bringing into your country. The tariffs that Trump has a mandate for, he's got a mandate. It's not like last time where he'd do it on a situational basis. This time it is his signature economic policy. And he has said that Canada is going to pay a price. And I think the price is going to be paid on softwood, beef, dairy. It's going to be paid on grains, like across the board. The trillions of dollars in trade that we have with the United States of America are all going to suffer here. And then consumers, ironically, in the United States are ultimately going to suffer because we all know what happens when you get hit. If you're a producer and you get hit with a tariff, well, you don't just absorb it, you pass it along to the consumer. So the irony is, I think that inflation is going to come roaring back sometime in the third quarter or so, because if Trump is serious, big if, about these tariffs, that he's going to do what he's got a mandate to do, everything is going to end up costing more for the Americans and for us.
Okay, quick follow-up and then quick response. Many of the tariffs that Trump put in 16 and during his 4-year tenure, Biden kept in place.
Yeah, and Biden made a mistake too, and Biden deserved credit. It's bad economic policy. If you have a globalized economy, right? If you have an integrated world economy, which we do, and which we've had for a quarter century, you cannot be acting like a fiefdom of old and erecting walls. You either believe in free trade or you don't. And both, as you point out, both Joe Biden and Donald Trump don't.
Yeah.
To me, the big indication, the big meaning of Tuesday night, there's all kinds of stuff in the mix, abortion, whatever. But the main thing is the United States of America turned inward. It's saying we don't want to be the international cop anymore. We're not so interested in encouraging free trade anymore. They've turned inward, which they as a people have a right to do. But there's going to be consequences for those of us who are on the other side of the wall.
All right, back to the sort of the politics of this, Brian. Warren brings up that Trudeau can do that sort of drama teacher thing, the emotive, and play to our whatever weaknesses Canadians feel that they may have. I think we're pretty good. I think we're pretty solid here, but nonetheless, there are a large swath of Canadians who feel scared about Donald Trump as president, and then therefore translate that over to Pierre Poilievre. Here's where I think that doesn't work, because Poilievre has been out there for the last 2.5 years, over 2 years since he's been leader of the Conservative Party, and has demonstrated over and over again, he's not that type of conservative, or whatever that type of conservative is. He doesn't have those massive sort of emotional swings that perhaps Donald Trump can be accused of. So don't believe your lying eyes. Is that what Trudeau's going to try to do?
He will try, and I think Warren pretty much nailed it. He needed to be a bit more breathy in the delivery. Otherwise, he nailed it.
He'll practice it for next time.
You know what I'm talking about. He just gets so breathy as he's talking to you. It will work to a degree. I think it will help move a few points back towards the Liberals. I don't think it will do enough to close the gap.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
The gap is so big in this. Had the Liberals done other things that they should have done, like say, I don't know, September 12th, 2022, launch a massive attack ad campaign against Pierre Poilievre to define him, maybe this would have worked because the gap wouldn't be so big. They allowed Pierre Poilievre to go out and define himself to voters and for voters to get to know him. And he has done rally after rally across the country, introducing himself directly to people. And they have a sense of who he is now. And they're not scared of the guy. And so a little while ago, the Liberals started trying. And it was about a year ago, they started with the attacks comparing him to Donald Trump, which I said was stupid at the time because Trump could end up winning. Well, here we are. It hasn't worked yet. We'll see, how far it goes. But, I don't see him being able to win back by scaring people about a leader in a different country. We're grown-ups. We're sensible voters for the most part.
Yeah, I agree with
Warren.
Brian.
I want to bring it back to that economic aspect of it, Warren. We've seen, whom all of us collectively agree that we have probably the worst foreign affairs minister in the history of this country. We've seen her talking and being asked about the Donald Trump presidency and what does that mean for Canada. She can barely string a sentence together. Melanie Joly, of course, is who I'm talking about. Stephen Guilbeault, the environment minister. can barely say anything reasonably appropriate. But I want to go back to January 2021 when Joe Biden took over as president. He killed the Keystone XL pipeline. Trump has said he wants to bring back Keystone XL pipeline, significant economic benefit for Canada. I don't know if Canadian companies are ready to sort of re-engage with that. I'm not sure. But a decision such as that, our energy independence, all of that we have here with the Trudeau government's now putting caps on our production. Talk to me a little bit about how is that going to work out with the Trump administration's new, like, liquid gold, let's drill, baby, drill.
Well, I know where Donald Trump stands. I don't know where the Trudeau government stands.
Right.
They need to pick a lane. There's this fascinating exchange between David Common on the CBC and Mélanie Joly, the worst cabinet minister in Canadian history, TM. And they can't figure out what to do now, right? Because their worst nightmare has come true. So do they attack, Pierre Poilievre for being too close to Donald Trump and like Donald Trump? Or do they continue to try to have a bilateral relationship? They have to pick a lane. You can't suck and blow. You can't do both. So if they decide to go after Poilievre for being Trump-like, it means internally they've decided, the campaign team is convinced, the government side, we are going to lose the election. So this is a save the furniture exercise. So we need to tag Poilievre with that. But, the problem with it, because the government people are going to say to the campaign people, led by Andrew Bevan, who used to work for Kathleen Wynne, yeah, but if we do that, it may not work. It may not work. People may say, and this is what I tweeted out this morning, Donald Trump's good for Justin Trudeau for the reasons that we've all just talked about. But I think he's good for Pierre Poilievre too. Pierre Poilievre has grown in the job. He is not a Trumper, right? I can easily see him objecting to the things that Trump's going to do on trade and bilateral issues across the board. He is not I think he's matured in the job. So I think that the Liberal Party of Canada and the government, the Liberal government, they're two different entities that have got to decide which lane are we going to take. I don't know which one they're going to pick, but if they decide to go all in on attacking Poilievre for being Trump-like, it means that internally they've decided they're going to lose the election, and it's just an exercise to minimize the damage.
Last word to you, Brian. I mean, much of what we can point to in terms of what happened in the first Trump presidency, all the craziness that swirled around that, a lot of the House was Democratic, so there was impeachments and the Russia hoax, and we know that's been dispelled. But a lot of that craziness sort of stemmed from what was happening in other branches of government, going after the Trump presidency, not letting him get an agenda through. That's going to be very different this time around. So they may not be that so-called chaos that the left is going to be able to point to. So when you see, if there is, let's say, shall we say, normalcy, there's never true normalcy in any presidency, but if there's not that chaos, not that craziness that we saw, and the Liberals don't have that to point to and say, that's what Pierre Poilievre is going to do in Canada, what else do they got?
I think fear. It won't be a campaign of hope coming from the Liberals. It'll be a campaign of fear. Meanwhile, Pierre Poilievre will be doing a campaign of hope, saying, which he's been doing all along, saying his phrase is "bring it home." And his critics have said, well, what does that mean? Well, he keeps defining it. Bring home the jobs, bring home bigger paychecks, bring home industries that have left. And that's what he put out in his statement, congratulating Trump on winning, which, all the leaders except Jagmeet Singh congratulated Trump on winning. But Poilievre said, this is what we need to do now. And that is bring jobs back to Canada rather than allow, foreign investment from Canada to head south to set up jobs in industries that should be on this side of the border. We need, so it's going to be a very different campaign. Right. Will there be insanity and silliness around Trump? Yeah, he invites it. He kind of revels in it. So I think that's, the circus is still going to be there. But I remember writing during his first term, I said, behind the circus, the economy is doing well. And that's what people care about. And they did until the pandemic, when nothing was going well.
Well,
So expect that again.
well, perhaps Pierre Poilievre will have to borrow a line that the U.S. president-elect used. Justin Trudeau broke it. Pierre Poilievre will fix it. Well, let us know what you think in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to thetorontosun.com. You'll find commentary and coverage there you'll not find anywhere else.